everybody, we're live on the Comic-Con floor 2019. So up next we're going to have Maxwell, so stay glued to your desk, no potty breaks.
But I have this
Just
giant
pump it out.
that's like
So
super bedazzled.
thanks for coming, thanks for watching. Please send in all your questions. I'm going to be Rod's assistant today. I'm going to be throwing him questions that you're giving me. But keep in mind there's also people walking, as you can see. People walking everywhere. So they also come up and start asking questions. But by all means, send them through. We're streaming to all of our platforms. Thanks for tuning in. We're super excited to do this. It's something we've never done before. I think it's going well, but you can tell me otherwise. And trust me, you're going to want to stay for Rod's. He's going to show some stuff, prosthetics, mold making, and flaring. And I'm done talking because you don't want to listen to me anymore anyways. So stay tuned. Coming up soon, Rod Maxwell.
Hey everyone, I'm Maxwell here at Pixelogic's booth at Comic-Con. So you can ask questions, I'll do my best to answer them. I'm going to show you a few things, like if it wasn't for ZBrush, I would not have this. And this is a childhood dream of mine. This is Fubby, something I made, I want to say, decades ago. And I brought him into the computer, and in ZBrush made him fatter, chubbier in computer. And I was teaching some students of mine how to work with ZBrush, and one of them said, "Oh, that looks so cute, and I could eat it." 2 weeks later, I ran into a friend that works at a chocolate store, Sweet Hollywood, and I said, "What do you think about turning this into chocolate?" And about a month later, I had a chocolate Fubby line. So I'm going to show you how I made the molds in ZBrush from my original sculpt, and how that ended up becoming food-safe silicone. That is what they use to actually make chocolate Fubbies. So on the monitor right now, I don't know why I'm pointing to it here. It's probably, it's up there. It's up there. So here we have the mold that I used in here. So let me just first of all just show you that. I'm going to rotate it around. So that's Fubby, sort of Star Wars in carbonite, in a sense.
With suction cups.
With suction cups all around it. So for those that aren't mold making people, it's really important with our silicone, which is right here. I'm very prepared. It is right here. Here's a clear version of the two-part molds, that the chocolate is poured in here and the two molds fit together perfectly. So to make sure that they lock, that's what these little nubs are for. So the molds fit snugly and perfectly together and the chocolate doesn't ooze out where it shouldn't. So that's a traditional way of making molds, and I use it in the ZBrush version of it. And the great thing about having these all printed, or at least the masters for them, that the chocolatiers can just have a bunch of the right side, a bunch of the left, and it doesn't matter which one they grab, all of them fit perfectly together. So let's just take a look at my screen over here.
Is there a reason why you have different size registrations?
Yeah,
small ones, big ones.
Yeah, that's the reasons why I made different sizes, just to make sure that I didn't make the mistake, or they didn't make the mistake of locking. Just in case it got off kilter, you wouldn't want the wrong keys going in the wrong holes. So to have them spaced like that, it's kind of a guarantee that they're going to actually fit together. That's also the shape of the master mold too, just to keep everything in place. Hey,
I know you,
hey,
Rod,
we do
Shiny,
know
right?
each other. Oh
Brother,
my God!
I'm going. I know that guy.
Dynamesh, everyone. Take a
strangely
look
good
at this man. Look at him.
So what are you doing?
Come down. Say hello to everyone first.
Oh.
Yeah, we're streaming live so everyone can see you.
It's Doug Dynamesh.
It's Doug Dynamesh.
We used to work together at Shiny.
Decades ago.
We were buddies when we were kids.
And now we're old.
Okay, now you're doing a 3D. This is a 3D model that you print out, and then that becomes the negative for doing your own casts.
Yep, it actually is. Imagine this. So what I'm showing to Doug is this. If this whole thing was 3D printed, I could put the shell around it, pour the silicone in it, and that would become one side, and I have it for both sides. So this is a way to make food-safe silicone, because this is a chocolate line at Sweet Hollywood.
Right.
So, yeah, and it's smooth on silicone.
Is that the same thing as that dental blue stuff, or is that not smooth? The dental blue?
Well, the dental, if it's dental, it's safe.
Yeah.
I'm assuming if it's the same one, but this one is specifically for chocolate. That's one of the things. It's food safe for lollipops and all.
So what are you doing here? Is this a kit or a tutorial that people can learn?
So
what does this mean to me?
What does it mean to you? I can tell you anything, and everyone watching would benefit from anything you want to know. Because if you want to know it, they probably want to know.
Am I hiring you, or do I buy this stuff?
Well, in this particular case, I'm here just to show how a childhood toy that I designed actually came to life. Not only as chocolate, but also as it was originally meant to be a squeezy toy. So I was showing how...
Dude, that's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, we got to talk.
Okay. Everyone, Doug Dynamesh!
The first time I was... So I'm Indiegogo in Earthworm Jim.
Oh, you are? Excellent.
We raised $750,000 on the book. We just got a new record. Earthworm Jim on Indiegogo. Where's your business card? Give me your card.
We'll be in touch.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Love you, man. God bless.
All right, thank you. everyone, that was a nice little treat. Now,
Back to you.
Back to this. So, do you have any questions coming in? If not, I'll just hop right in.
Just go right in.
All right. So let's just make this simple first. Before this complicated octopus-looking thing that's surrounding Fubby, let's just talk about how we can make a mold. Anything that you build inside of ZBrush. ZBrush has booleans. What that means is you can take any sculpture you want and just like a solid cube, put it in the cube and say subtract it and you have a mold. The cool thing is you can do it one side and the other, and that's how you make a two-part mold. So before I get anything more like heady and complicated about that, let's just take a look. I'm going to go turn off this completed mold here, and I'm just going to go to a cube that I'm going to bring in. So here's a cube. Let me zoom out for you. It's on a separate layer. Inside of ZBrush, layers are called subtools, because when you're sculpting on a tool, it's an object. And you can think of subway station, one subway, it's a bad analogy. How about subterranean below the, you get the point that these are subtools. They're like layers, one below the other. So with it, I have my original Fubby here on its own, and then I imported a cube. And that cube, I'm able to move around and move Fubby in and out of it. So, right now, I have Fubby halfway in a cube. I can say, hey, subtract that Fubby from the cube. Let me do this real fast as I make sure everything's visible. Well, that is called an amputated Fubby. That is actually the intersection between Fubby and the cube. So what you're seeing is Fubby's butt. That is a Fubby butt that I have going on here on. So what I want to do is make sure that is now Fubby butt subtracted from the mold. Let me zoom in so you can see that a little bit better. So that's already half of a mold that Fubby's embedded in. You see that it's a cylindrical shape? That's because I'm actually combining the cube with the Fubby subtracted from it, and then I'm saying, you know, I want my mold to be round, so I put a cylinder. Those three separate layers all combine to make that half. Why round instead of square? For the chocolatiers, it's easier to put the two molds together, an elastic band around the whole thing to hold it together as they put it through the refrigerator to cool everything. So that's the reason why I did it round instead of a cube.
Good tip.
That's just
a good tip.
I tried that going on. So let's see what we have. Hi, Jew, Mr. Hi, Jew. Our Fubby. That's Fubby again, cropped. Or Fubby's out.
Fubby butt.
Fubby butt. So let me go back to keeping Fubby in there. With Fubby sticking out of this cylinder, what I did next was I printed just the outside shell. So I have this 3D printed, which has the cylinder, slug, and Fubby, and I place that inside a cup. This cup, we pour silicone in, let it set, pull it out. I have the front cast of the mold for Fubby, and I just do it on the other side. So, this is basically the other side of the mold, and that's the two-half mold. People say, oh, you know, do you want to 3D print in silicone? That would be nice, but there are so many companies that are great. Smooth-On is the main one that I use for the food-safe silicones. It's so difficult for companies to get things approved for being on the skin or meant to be edible, or make molds that you're eating food out of. So Smooth-On has spent a lot of money and time making all different types of silicones. For me, I'd rather 3D print an object, make a mold from it. I can make many molds from the same 3D print. So that is why for me, it's not as important to print in silicone, even though Form Labs, which is what I use to make these master molds, they're Form 2 and now moving into the Form 3, great products. And they're coming out with more silicones and skin-safe, or dental-safe appliances that you can actually put in your mouth. So Paul is playing with something that I did on a very inexpensive printer. This is just basically it's a filament printer. What that means is the printer melts hot glue and squeezes it layer by layer onto a platform. Those printers can be relatively inexpensive, under $300 compared to thousands of dollars for a high-end printer, but you can do a lot with them. So I sculpted this little, some of my students called this dad bod. And that's what this little thing is here, even though if I do that it looks inappropriate. Is that inappropriate? No, it's okay. Okay, so with that, this was originally sculpted in ZBrush, and I just put it in a cube, just like I showed. And I made the negative mold for both sides. These molds fit together. Smooth on silicone inside, set up, have a silicone cast. So that's what dad bod is, but on a printer that costs under $300. So I always say, if you're interested in getting into 3D printing and 3D modeling, and you don't have that much money to spend, get your feet wet. Try ZBrush Core. ZBrush Core is at a great price point. You get all the features that you need for 3D printing. Go pick up an XYZ printer for a couple $100 and start experimenting. And then you get a feel if this is for you, how easy it is for you. And then you can move your way up and get the full package or the subscription at Pixelogic. And then if you want to move into a Form 2 or now a Form 3, those printers you cannot see any lines. It is super sharp. You can print tiny little things. People use it for jewelry and people use it for dentistry. So you can do a lot of stuff with the Form 2 and now Form 3. And there are other resin printers out there that do the same quality, but I'm a Form 2 user, and I've had great results. And if it wasn't for Pixelogic ZBrush and the Form 2, I wouldn't have had, and I'm telling you, I came up with this design so many years ago. I literally shelved it because I thought, well, what's going to happen with it? It's one of those things you just kind of give up on a childhood dream in a sense, because so many things happen in life that have been keeping me busy by far. But then this opportunity came up, and because I was able to 3D print it, I have a chocolate line, a squeezy toy line, and magnets and all other things that are Fubby related. So if you're interested in seeing Fubby, if you're in Hollywood, stop by Sweet Hollywood. It's at Hollywood and Hyde, not far from the Dolby Theater. If it's Kodak Theater, Dolby Theater, it's where they give out the Academy Awards on the second floor. So with all that promoting, self-promoting, I want to show you a couple things inside of ZBrush that I'm using 3D printing for. Not only am I using it for the chocolate line, but I'm using it for prosthetics. So some of you don't know me at all. Hello, for those that don't know me. Some know me from Face Off. I was on season 3. And so I do a lot of prosthetics and prosthetic makeups. And I've been incorporating 3D printing into making prosthetics. So this is a printed 3D mold for silicone prosthetics that's in Depressini's book. I'm going to call this up on screen for you. Let's do a quick open. It's going to say save, and I'm going to say no. I'm going to go to Todd's. Peace. And it's a coming. And there it is. This is... There's a little announcement going on. I don't know if you can hear it. Westworld. Yes. One of my favorite shows. Westworld. Yeah.
What about the original movie?
I love the original movie. I love the whole animatronics. That's one of the things I wanted to get into, Disney animatronics and all of this stuff. Yeah. Westworld's pretty damn cool. So this is a fine makeup artist, Todd Depressini, and this is a scan of his head. And what I did was I sculpted an old age prosthetic right on his face and made these molds using the same process that I briefly discussed earlier. One of the things I used in here was the ability inside of ZBrush, again, stacking different sculptures or subtools, but there is something in here that allows you to save sculpting in this area. It almost looks like an undo slider, where you sculpt something and it goes away. But it does something much cooler. It's this interesting morphing package, which means, you know what, I'm gonna leave Todd for a second, no offense Todd, but I'm gonna go open up and show you the strength of this. It's almost an animation package of sorts. Let me go grab this for you. I'm gonna call up this little earth demon I did a while back.
So what did you mean by lines? So that one of the people are asking the question.
Yes,
what do you mean by lines? I don't know people. For printing.
So with 3D printing, what happens with all the with the 3D printers that most people know, 3D printing is like you have a loaf of bologna, and in the deli, they slice it up into slices of bologna. So 3D printing is that. You have your model, it slices it up into layers, and then it sends it to the printer. And then the printer will print that one slice of bologna. So imagine if you had a hot glue gun and you just filled the outside shape of your bologna and filled it in, you'd have one slice of bologna. Then the printer says, here's another slice on top. So it does another layer. And it fills in that slice of bologna. And layer after layer, you end up getting your loaf of bologna back. So those are the lines that I'm talking about. Some printers, the ones that are hot glue, you can actually see those lines because it's melted plastic of sorts. When you move into the high-end printers, the ones that are done with a laser and resin, the layers are thinner and finer. So you don't see those lines, and that's what I mean by lines. It's basically how a loaf of bread is sliced up or a loaf of bologna sliced up, and it's printing every layer by layer. Did that answer your question?
Looks like you're good.
Okay, good. All right, then we will be moving on. So, this is a cool thing inside of ZBrush, one of the many. There are so many things inside of ZBrush. You may never need to use 90% of them. There are just so many features involved. But let's go to layers, and I'm going to start to record a new layer. And I'm going to call this layer browse. Name, let's see if I can type this into the keyboard. Browse. Enter. So now I'm recording browse. And I'm going to use this brush, which is a move brush, which is just a way to move clay around on screen, keeping everything intact, but just move it. And I'm going to zoom into the face. And I'm going to go to the brow here, and I'm just going to move it up. Like it's going like, what are you doing? I don't know what's going on. Let me raise my eyebrows up just a little bit. All right. Now, if this was just a regular slider that would undo it, the eyebrows would just go right back to where they started. So let me go and drag it, and you'll see that it actually is morphing between where it started and where I went with it. And something even cooler is if you go into the negative, it starts to go in the opposite direction, even though I didn't sculpt that. So now I can make my creature angry. And it's a great way to start to layer different areas to test out facial expressions without really damaging or touching your original sculpt. So I can go over here and create another layer, and I'm going to call this mouth. And, oh, I thought I renamed it mouth. I just typed that in someplace. And I did magnifying glass. Let's not do magnifying glass. All right, let's do, well, actually with my eyes, I could use magnifying glass. Mouth, enter, there we go. So with this, I can go to the corners of the mouth. Oh no, I dropped it. So what you're seeing in here inside of ZBrush, ZBrush has the ability, it started off as a very powerful 2.5D package. What that means is, Photoshop has the ability to work as a flat surface, X and Y. And inside of Photoshop, there's something called liquify, which it becomes like a sheet of rubber that you can pull it pull your image like rubber in the X or the Y direction. ZBrush was one of the first packages that came out that you can grab your image and pull it out of the screen in the Z direction, and ZBrush. So it looked three-dimensional. In a sense it was. You could cast shadows on it. It would look three-dimensional, different materials. But what you couldn't do was take that image and rotate the whole thing around. So it was somewhere between 2D and 3D. So we call that 2.5D. So ZBrush still has fantastic 2.5D illustration and drawing and sculpting features in it, and a lot of artists use it specifically for 2.5D. What happened here was I turned off with my little keyboard shortcut the 3D aspect, and my object got dropped to 2.5D. So it looks three-dimensional, but I can't rotate the whole thing. So I'm going to do Control Z to let's clear this and draw a fresh one. Sorry, all my characters seem to have butts somewhere involved. This is the back of its head. That's bringing my Fubby back. Not my Fubby, my Earth Demon. And it's a little adult-ish there. There we go. We'll move the boobs down and we'll go back to our character. So I'm still recording mouth. I'm going to go with my move, and I'm going to zoom in here and lift the corners of my mouth up. Move these around a bit, and now I have a mouth recording over here that I can undo and bring down and actually go in the opposite direction too. So from happy or mischievous to now grumpy. These are all layers, and when you're done you can bake them into the actual sculpture so it will actually stay. So here's my little character. A lot of great detail, and for the person that asked about the layers or the lines, this character can be printed on those resin printers, specifically the Form 2 or Form 3, and all these tiny little wrinkles in the face will be printed and show up. So if I were done, I would say bake all right here, and then that's actually built into the face. Again, these are layers. Subtools behave like Photoshop layers. So for those that are Photoshop users, you kind of have to get used to that concept of subtools are like layers and layers, and it gets a little involved. Because again, ZBrush has so many things built into it. There are many ways of doing the same thing. You can customize ZBrush to your favorite tools, so you don't have to go look for it. I tend to keep ZBrush exactly how it comes from the factory because I work with people that are learning it for the first time, and I want it to stay simple. Because a lot of this, I like artists to become free of anything technical, so it becomes more, it's just like working with clay. You don't have to be afraid that it feels like a computer for those that are traditional sculptors. Eventually it all just gets into your body and it's very natural. So I like to kind of keep the interface as is, let people know where things are located, so it's just pure muscle memory. Like when you're learning to dance, it's like a dance move. Again and again and again, you do it, eventually you don't have to think about it. So I tend to keep things right where they started, hence subtools. A couple nice new features inside of ZBrush. We now have folders. So these subtools now, you can put things in folders and hide them and work with them, so you can work with multiple layers very easily. That's a nice new feature in there. Also, ZBrush has a pretty cool renderer. For me, I'm a sculptor first, and drawing is something that I've gotten better at over time, but I tend to think three-dimensionally. So ZBrush has a renderer built in, and what that means is it will take your basic sculpture, and when you hit this render button right here, it will end up creating real shadows and real lighting that reflect the real world. So it does it's called best preview render, but it's actually creating real life lighting effects. ZBrush is known for that. They also work with another package, Keylight, which does even more realistic renders. But ZBrush just added the ability to take your sculptures and do a non-realistic render, which can make it look like an illustration. So for those sculptors out there that don't feel confident with their illustrating abilities, but they want to take their characters and turn them into illustrations, you can use their new rendering feature. Let me just see if I can find this real fast. We're going to go to render sets, and I'm just going to pick something that's like a blueprint real fast. Right here. Let me just double click on that. And with this, let me get hide light box. Let me zoom out.
My mom did it. That's okay.
And it is creating a blueprint look without me having to do anything. So if I were working on a film and I was working in, the characters are working in some special government lab and they wanted to have the blueprints for my character, I might just go and quickly hit best preview render using the new render set, and now I have a blueprint of my character with no extra work on my part. So for speed or just proof of concept, this becomes great. And I haven't tested this, which is a bad demo person, so this is live demo. So let me go pick some more render sets and see what we have to see what they would look like for our character here. So that is just an etchy, sketchy look. Do you have a preference? Is there some particular render set that stands out to you, Paul?
No, it depends what you're doing. Like a couple I made for like more like a Gundam style anime. So those black and white ones I made for more of that.
I can try the black and white ones. I'm not sure if it's necessarily the best one to show off this demon. Let's just take a look. Ooh, interesting. This reminds me of when I was a kid. Did you ever do linoleum prints? You take a sheet of linoleum and hopefully you don't stick your hand with the cutter. I
did mine out of wood.
Oh, you did yours out of wood?
I did wood and then I did the...
Did you ever have an accident?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bloody hands.
Bloody hands. All kids, remember, put your hand behind the blade, away from you. But this actually looked like good old speed. Is it not? Oh, what's the speed? Anyone out there that knows the ink over linoleum speed? It's not Speedo.
No.
That's a bathing suit. I don't think.
I don't remember.
My character's wearing a Speedo.
No.
No. Oh my God! But someone online probably knows that, that may be watching. Anyways, this looks like a linoleum print.
There's one that looks like a pencil drawing.
Pencil drawing. Let's just take a look at some
There's
more.
One that looks like a pen.
Let's see. Which one? This one's
yeah, that one.
pencil on paper. Let's see
and
what comes up.
too.
Ooh. Very cool sketching on line paper. What else? You say motorcycle one?
Then the motorcycle one. Keep going.
Keep going? All right.
Yeah, right there. You just press it.
Right here.
Straight. There you go.
Awesome. Interesting. Ooh. Pretty cool.
There's a watercolor one all the way at the end.
Let me see the watercolor one.
Top corner.
Top corner, all the way, everyone. Let's see if I can follow rules. This one?
Yep.
Oh. That's nice.
So if you fill with different colors, it'll even really look more and
better.
more like. Yeah.
So if you go and you actually paint the surface with the paint tools that are in here, and then use these render sets, they're going to look pretty cool. And you can modify all the render sets. They're really just there to get you to
you
a
were
good
right.
starting
It's
place.
Speedball Cutter online. They're saying.
Speedballs. Thank you. Not Speedo. Speedball Cutter. Thank you.
We can go with Speedos. It'd be awkward cutting with Speedos.
It might be.
Maybe you're wearing Speedos.
You might be wearing. I may
cutter.
be wearing Speedos right now, and I'm so sorry to put that in your mind. Way past the age where I should be wearing anything other than the one piece from the 20s. Anyway, what other fun things I have in here? A friend of mine, Mike Spatola, was hired a while ago to create a medical ear for someone that was born without an ear. At the same time, I was doing the digital version of it. And what I did was, let's just put it in what you could do now. If someone is missing an ear, you can scan where they're missing an ear. Then you can scan their real ear. And inside of ZBrush, flip it, use that Boolean feature to subtract one from the other, make the molds for it, and then you can 3D print the other ear that matches perfectly the amputee, someone that's lost an ear, someone from a different location than where the doctor may be. You can work remotely, email them the files, 3D printed in another country, all the same day, not have to worry about FedExing or DHLing or sending it anywhere. And then they can go and give someone new life, new ear, new nose.
Yeah, those show the patient too now inside the ZBrush.
Yep.
The patient will sit down next to the doctor and then they'll show the ear that they're making inside of ZBrush as well.
Can they hear you?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, I mean, it really is the possibilities, and I envy all you young people out there that are starting off.
More information.
Because you have so many decades ahead of you. You're in this at the right time. ZBrush has gone through, like I said, from 2.5D to really strengthening their 3D sculpture and with mold making, 3D printing. You have your own toy factory. You have your own ability to make jewelry. You have your own ability to make so many different things. People walking by. We're here at Comic-Con, right near Artist Alley. So a lot of people coming through. We're at 5100. If you look at the banners, if you're here at Comic-Con, so please come by and say hello. If I don't see you, like I almost missed them behind me, that's because I'm talking to everyone online here. So that's what's going on. Plus, I am using this wonderful Cintiq that might be hiding me just a little bit. But this is a beautiful new Cintiq also from
Yeah, if you wanted to. Sure, you can.
Well,
yeah, so he was just on a renderer right now. So right now he's got
hold on one second, I want to make sure that. Is there anything in particular that you would like to see?
Keep going.
All right.
Keep going. So he's going to start sculpting on it. So it's, in essence, like a ball of clay. Doing whatever you want with it.
I'm going to show you.
Because you have a digital file, you can render it with it.
There are a lot of people out there that like to start off with a pre-made head, so they don't have to go through the steps of setting up a ball of clay and everything. It's already there, and then they can modify it. Some people, like myself, I like to start with a ball of clay because it gives you the opportunity to discover things. For me, I'm traditionally a clay sculptor. I love clay. I sculpt with two hands. For me, sculpting with one hand with a stylus was a little tricky to start with years ago. And I've had pixel-logic ZBrush for a long, long time. But the truth is, you can't go to Starbucks with a big sculpture, but you can go to Starbucks with a laptop and a tablet, and a relatively inexpensive tablet. You can go with a $69 walking tablet and be sculpting and sipping coffee. I know that sounds a little hoity-toity, but it truly is a great thing. So for me, I can sit down in a coffee shop and start sculpting and make mistakes. The great thing about making mistakes is you will discover stuff. I mean, I've discovered creatures instead of just going, this is my plan. There are times as sculptors are hired to bring someone's design or license to life. Then in that role as a sculptor, it's our responsibility to bring that character to life truthfully, without modifying it. My friend Jerry Macaluso would always say, please, don't, to sculptures, don't modify, don't make this design what you think is better. You may actually make it better, but there's so much money involved in licensing and getting that approved. They really just want the sculptors to bring something to life as close to the original design as possible. In that case, you don't want to improvise and start discovery. But if you're making your own designs or brainstorming something, then I say make mistakes. And I say work boldly and broadly. Like with, if I just had a ball of clay here, I have to put my glasses on because I have to see. Let me get this ball of clay. I'm going to get out of this renderer right now and go back to just the default renderer, so I don't have anything happening. So if someone were starting off here truly with a ball of clay, I would say this. Let's quickly turn on the mesh that makes everything nice and clean and even. We call it Dynamesh. That's a way to keep the surface of your model perfectly even. I'm going to turn on symmetry, something I would love to have if this was real life, because you always have to sculpt the other side. And I can go in here and use this thing called clay buildup, which is really a big roughing tool. Let me go and turn this into red wax so you can see
Ron, are you
this.
hanging around after 12:30 when you're done?
I can. Hey!
Hi, I'll come back after you're done.
Definitely will.
Okay.
All right. So with this, I can go and start to sculpt on my model, big and blocky like this. This type of roughness, I can start to see characters in a big mess of blob. What does that mean and why does that matter? Let me go back to my original character here. Imagine when you're a kid and it's dark and the coat rack that's in the corner is in the dark. Our imaginations can see a creature. When we turn on the light and everything becomes sharp, it's a coat stand. But when it's in that blurry mode, our imagination, at least my imagination, I like to see the possibilities. So when you're working inside of ZBrush, you can really just rough things out and you may go, oh, I want to push that cheek in. I want to try to add something here or there. It does give you the opportunity to explore and come up with great creature designs, something that you never would have thought of. So with this particular one, I got to explore this whole side of adding ears. And I just was kind of inspired by seaweed and the ocean, and I just got to play with it, and then I got to fine tune. For everyone that's starting out, don't be afraid to make mistakes. I say a lot of my students that are starting out, they want things to be perfect, and it's very intimidating when you see like the artists that work with ZBrush. It looks daunting. Please don't compare yourself. Keep on going. Everyone that's gotten good has gotten good over time. So take the opportunity, make mistakes, discover things. A lot of sculptures can look good just rough. You don't have to be perfect, but you will get better over time. And again, it's digital clay. So I can go in here and I can say clone this sculpture or make another copy of it. So I can say copy this whole tool and then paste the tool. Now I have two versions of it here inside of my little catalog. We call these quick picks, because you can just go over to it and pick it quickly. So I can go and have a completely different set of this character's eyes, teeth, and mouth, and in the same ZBrush project, work on two different versions of the same character without having to quit out of ZBrush or have a separate file. So ZBrush gives you the opportunity to experiment with different modifications. So if you find a character and go like, I don't want to touch it, I don't want to mess up, you can go and just create another one right there as part of your quick picks. So I have two. Another thing that's unusual about ZBrush is, as much as I encourage people to make mistakes, ZBrush has the ability not only to undo 1, 2, 20 times, you can undo all the way back to the beginning. Thousands of steps. And unlike most software packages, when you quit that software package, all your undos go away. You can ask ZBrush to save all that undo history. So after you quit the computer today, if you want to come back in a month, open it up, you can still do your little undo slider and undo things and check things in the past. So that's a nice, again, oh my God, there's so many different features in here to experiment with. But I'm just going to go to that sphere that I just barely started. So let's just say that I'm building this up. I'm doing a shortcut to make the surface nice and even. Let me just talk to you about that. Inside of digital sculpting, the surface, it looks like we're sculpting in clay, but what we're really doing is, digital sculpting is like having pantyhose, like fishnet pantyhose, wrapped around a sphere. Let's just say we're starting to sculpt on a ball of clay that's a sphere. It really is as if you took a ball, wrapped a pantyhose around it, shrunk wrapped it, and got rid of the sphere. You'd have this shell of, they call it wireframe because the pantyhose looks like little wires. That little wireframe is the ball of clay. It just looks like clay in the computer, but it's basically a mesh. And when we add clay to the surface, we're really just pulling on that pantyhose, stretching it. And where we're subtracting clay, we're pushing that pantyhose in. So we're really just pulling or pushing. So when we add clay inside of ZBrush, we call it Z-adding. We're adding. When we're subtracting or pushing it away, we're Z-subtracting. So inside of ZBrush, we Z-add and Z-subtract. When you get comfortable, it just feels like you're sculpting in clay. But we are pulling on a mesh. Imagine if you took that mesh and pulled on it, like you're pulling on pantyhose, and you pull it till you can't pull it any further. It's stretched out all the way, just like a t-shirt that you pulled on, and you can't pull it any further. You won't be able to pull in this direction. It would be like a guitar string, doink, doink, doink. So what happened was the mesh was pulled where all the little, we call them polygons just for math, all the little squares are stretched out so far, there is no room to pull it in another direction. ZBrush gives you a special fabric of sorts, a special mesh that's dynamic, and it's nice and even. So imagine if you had a sphere that you pulled out like pantyhose. You can't pull it any further. You can't sculpt on it in any direction. Imagine if you had a piece of fabric that's nice and even, and you pull it out of the fabric roll, and you drape it over the sphere that's pulled out to a point. And you shrink wrap it onto the model. So now it's the exact shape as the one that's pulled out, but the new surface is nice and even. The computer will get rid of the one that's stretched out. Now you have a new mesh, a new sculpture that is pulled out to here, but it's all nice and even and relaxed. So you can go and grab the pantyhose now and pull it in this direction. And when you can't pull it any further, you use that special dynamic mesh. It wraps around, automatically vacuum forms, and we can keep on pulling. So that dynamic mesh is called Dynamesh. It's a way to remesh the surface so the surface is always nice and even, so you can continue to sculpt. I use that. It allows you to take control over when you want to make the surface even again. Remeshing the surface, dynameshing the surface. That is what I'm talking about with Dynamesh. ZBrush has had another package, a small package called Sculptress. Sculptress was a package that when you sculpted on the surface, it automatically added all those extra polygons to keep them nice and even as you sculpted. That feature ZBrush added, imported into the latest version of ZBrush, and that is called Sculptress Pro. It's a button you press, it's right here on screen, and when you press that, it automatically adds all the polygons for you. So you can sculpt pretty fast with that too. There are many ways inside of ZBrush to sculpt, to keep track of your skin. That's why I say if you're starting off, definitely pick up ZBrush Core. It's geared specifically to the sculpting side more than the painting or 2.5D side, and it gives you the opportunity to sculpt. It will use all the same interface, it looks the same, it won't be confusing, you don't have to make a big transition to a new package. And I would recommend using Dynamesh, that feature to allow you to keep your surface nice and even. And then if you want to move up, oh my God, I'm telling you, you just saw, for those that have been with me this whole time, if you just joined, I was giving people earlier the ability to see that you can take your character and make it look like a hand-drawn image. You can use it for 3D printing molds. You can use it for a lot of things. And it is worth its money. And ZBrush has been pretty good. All the updates over the years, and that may change in the future, but all the updates over the years have been free. So they're really supportive of their user base, which has been great, and why I've stayed with it and why I enjoy teaching it too. I know that Paul is helping someone, so I don't know if there are any questions coming through. Pardon me for just 1 second. Do you have any questions coming through, or is it only that Paul can see them? Oh, okay, so good. Good. There you go, okay, yeah. I'm so sorry for fishnet and Speedos all at the same time. I've been talking a bit, so I'm going to have to reach down here, not for Speedos or for pantyhose. At least that's what I'm telling you. Just grabbing a drink of water.
You know somebody like you know that somebody.
Ah. Oh. Okay. So I'm just going to wiggle this on the screen as people walk by, so they can see that something's actually happening on the screen. They don't realize I'm talking to you online. The way that I made these squeezy toys was complicated. Let me see if I can make it for those that are new joining us. I originally 3D printed the character, the fubby character, my fubby character. And then inside of ZBrush, I basically made a cocoon. I said make a skin around the whole thing. And I did. And then I took that whole object and I say subtract it from a box. So basically it created a mold. A mold, the shape and size of that skin, that cocoon that's covering Fubby. I tell the computer, get rid of that skin. So I 3D print the mold, the mother mold, that's the shape of the cocoon. I 3D print the Fubby, and when I put the molds together, there's a space where the cocoon was. Let me see if this will make sense to you. So this is the core, this is the mother mold. They're made inside a ZBrush, so they fit together perfectly. I say perfectly, let me see if Blind Rod can do it. There we go. So that fits perfectly inside, and you can see that there's a space where the cocoon is. And then this other side of the mold fits together perfectly. This is Formlabs Tough Resin, has some flexibility to it. When this is together, I made sure I engineered it so the core is locked into place. And in this, I poured Smooth-On's silicone, one of their stretchiest silicones, and I let that cure. And then after it cured, I took the mold apart, and my core had this silicone cocoon around it. The silicone from Smooth-On, like dragon skin, is so flexible, you can actually pull it without tearing it and pull it off of that core. This is the same material that a lot of the silicone mask companies use to make the masks. So it can be used to pull over your face. I mean, don't pull this over your face, but that's how this is made. And with this, I pour in expanding foam from Smooth-On, and because it is a cocoon, a skin, it expands. So depending upon how much foam I put in it, some of the foam rubber toy Fubbies become really fat. So every squeezy toy is a different size and shape, but they all look like Fubbies because the cocoon that I made was precisely even inside a ZBrush. So it isn't as if I tried to do this by hand, mold makers out there having to lay it up with clay. I just did it and did it precisely in the computer. So it expands perfectly evenly. So my characters still look like Fubby, just chubby Fubbies, or skinny chubby Fubbies is what we have. So again, another mold making technique inside a ZBrush that I love. I'm also a big user of Oculus Medium, and Oculus Medium I use with ZBrush. It is part of my pipeline of both worlds. For those that don't know Oculus Medium, it is a 3D sculpting package in the VR world. And it allows you to hold things and move things around. I will go back and forth. ZBrush gives me great control over my detailing and fine things, and it's geared for 3D printing, and Oculus has a lot of fantastic stuff too. They're fantastic packages, and I love jumping back and forth between the two of them. So, check out Oculus too. And all of the companies are great companies. They all get along together. They're not cutthroat at all. Everyone supports each other. So my friends over at Facebook and market. I totally support ZBrush and saying back and forth because they're so unique what they offer. I would love to sit at Starbucks sometimes, but I'm not going to put on my VR. Even though I've seen people at Starbucks with an iMac. Oh yes, oh question, sorry, I'm rambling. What material do I pour into the silicone? For the squeezy toys? Different things. This particular silicone to make the squeezy toy, it is a flexible foam. Hi everyone, hi everyone. Hi. It is a flexible foam from Smooth-On, their flexible foam series. They make a whole bunch. This is one of their better self-skinning foams, and it feels great. I believe it could be the 14. The 17 is more dense, but more durable. And this one is almost like in your car, the dashboard. That's our firm, but extremely strong. So when it came to the squeezy toys, I would use their flex foam, Smooth-Ons. For my magnets, I use their rigid polyurethanes, but they also have a semi-rigid polyurethane. So for fridge magnets that may hit the floor, I go semi-rigid just so it won't shatter. Other things poured into the silicone molds are chocolate. So this particular mold is a food-safe silicone mold that chocolate is poured into. And the chocolatiers at Sweet Hollywood, I mean, you should, if you're in town, go to Sweet Hollywood. You don't have to buy my stuff there. Just go watch the chocolatiers make a fubby. Because they will go in the fountain of chocolate with a paintbrush and hand paint all the fingers and toes into the mold, close the mold, fill the mold, jiggle the mold, pour the mold, jiggle the mold, and send it through a refrigerating tunnel, and then crack it open. I mean, all that work, and you get this solid fubby for like $19. I go, wow. It's because it isn't made like at Hershey's, and I love Hershey's, but it's not made at Hershey's. It's all handmade by their chocolatiers at Sweet Hollywood, which is impressive.
Did you answer?
The next question is how many times can you cast in that mold?
How many times can I cast in this mold? Well, in the silicone, these molds, they're platinum-based silicones. There are basically two types of silicones out there. Platinum-based, tin-based. It's easy to remember. The platinum is like fancy jewelry. You'd wear fancy jewelry on your wrist. Tin-based silicones, you wouldn't want to put on your skin. So the tin-based silicones are more industrial, and they're usually a little cheaper, and they may not last as long as the platinum. Think platinum jewelry, expensive, lasts a long time. So the platinum molds that are made for food-safe silicones or skin-safe last a really long time. It just depends on how often you use them. They have great memory. So I've used these a ton of times, and they still haven't stretched out. It's the same life expectancy as you might get from like Immortal Masks. Great team of people. I'm biased, I know them, so full disclosure, but I love Immortal Mask. Anyways, their masks last a long time too, and they use them in the haunt industry. So
they're asking, for example, PVC or resin. How many times you can put that in the mold?
Well,
that's coming too now.
I say always release your molds. My resins that I've been using, the polyurethanes, I haven't done a count. I haven't had any problems. I say, like with any mold making, even though silicone is self-releasing, I would still use the approved mold release for whatever resin you're doing. It will expand the life of the mold. And truly, if you have any detailed questions, contact Reynolds is Smooth-On store. You can always contact Reynolds Advanced Materials for those in the UK, Bentley Advanced Materials. Both companies, they just have employees that know the materials so well, and they're really open to answering your questions because they want people to learn and grow, and they love the art. They're artists working with them. So
Hard plastic?
Hard plastic, yes. The polyurethane plastic that I'm talking about, Smooth Cast, is one of the names from Smooth-On. You pour it in here, it solidifies, and it's hard plastic. Okay, feel free to ask more as long as I'm not like rambling. I think I have,
You have
only
6
6 more minutes.
So $5. We'll see if we can sweep that.
If you have any questions, face-off questions for face-off people, anything you'd like to ask, feel free. Hopefully we'll be able to communicate in the noise on
Show
that.
me the money. Oh, look at that. Check it out.
But in the meantime, you know what I also want to talk about? Remember how I was saying, for those that are with me earlier, 3D sculpting is really just pulling and pushing on a mesh, like pantyhose, not a Speedo. For those that just joined, don't ask. So the mesh is usually set up with little squares. For people that are getting into ZBrush, creating characters that go to, let's say, animators, some animators like the surface to make sense, like have the polygons follow a crease in an arm. That might make it easier to model. ZBrush has the ability to take your surface and go and figure out the minimal amount of polygons to have that nice surface flow.
That might be
That's a nice feature in here. So many things that I could barely crack the surface in the next couple of minutes. But I would say, for those that are tuning in that haven't used ZBrush, it's a great time. I'm here because these are friends of mine and I love the software. I'm not here getting paid for this, so this is unsolicited. It is a great time to get involved in ZBrush. It's a great time to get involved in 3D modeling. It's a great time to get involved in 3D printing. Like I say, ZBrush Core, affordable. I know money's tight for a lot of people, but it is, in the big picture, affordable. And get a few $100 3D printer, a small one. It doesn't have to be big. And start experimenting and see if that inspires you. Because for me, ZBrush and Sculpting and ZBrush, whether it's ZBrush and working with Oculus Media, they're really inspirational packages to just spawn ideas that you may not have thought you would come up with. You will see things in the clay. You will find stuff. Some sculptors are additive builders. Some are diggers. Some will dig away and say the character was hiding in the cube. Some people will give birth to it like an egg. That becomes up to you as the artist of what works for you. But start. Don't be afraid to start. It doesn't have to be outrageously expensive. If you want, download the trial version. But ZBrush Core is a subset that's geared specifically to sculpting and not to the 2.5D painting world. So you won't get distracted if you get with Core first, and it will keep you on track. So I highly recommend Core for those that are new, and I highly recommend picking up a printer like XYZ for under a couple $100, I mean for about $300 or less, and just start and see if it's right for you. I think that's going to be pretty much it. See if there are if you have any more questions, please ask me now, because I do have to make room for the next artist that's coming in. And I do appreciate you watching and asking questions along the way. I would say, because I was on Face Off, my contact info is really hard, like my email's really bad. Some of the best ways to do it is on Instagram. Follow me at Rod Maxwell. Tag me or try to send me a direct message there. I tend to see that more. I get so much junk mail too. So Rod Maxwell, that's my Instagram. I look at that more than I do my Twitter feed. So I would say try that first. And then I can see your work and you can see some of my work. And hopefully we'll have a chance to communicate. If I don't get back to you, try again. It's just difficult because again we're dealing with the real world with a lot of people that reach out and have a lot of students. It doesn't mean I'm ignoring you, so please forgive me if I miss a message from you. Okay?
Somebody asked, do you know Sig Neutron?
Oh yeah, I know Sig. He was in a couple seasons after me. Okay. Sig Neutron, is a very cool guy, a very kind man, and very talented. That's it. All right, everyone. So it's Ron Maxwell here, live at Comic-Con at the Pixelogic booth. Again, look for 5100 right near the 5120 specifically. 5120 specifically, right at the Artist Alley. So head towards the Artist Alley. You'll see the wall. We're right there. Everyone, have a good Comic-Con.